Backlash showed us the future. WWE cuts payroll and the roster. And way too early WrestleMania 43 predictions. This is Kent, and this is Fanatically Speaking. Let's go. Hey, what's up, everybody? Got a wrestling episode here today. We are now post-WrestleMania, so we get into Backlash, get into that, what's the new storylines, what's the new feuds, rivalries, whatever's going on. Are we getting a run back from WrestleMania? Do we continue feuds? And some of it is, and some of it's not, and some of it's head scratching. As always, that's just wrestling. But Backlash gave us a lot. I really think, there was a theme of Backlash, and we'll get into that later. I'll get into that, but I'm just gonna go through the matches and break down the review recap of them, and then what it means going forward. What they meant, the other night at Backlash. So we get going. They get everybody going with a really good match with the Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, rivalry feud here, because it's all connected to the Vision, and Rollins brought, Breaker in. And then, of course, due to injury, as we all know, Rollins had to, forfeit the title and take some time off before Mania, but that led to a quick Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed turning on Seth, kicking him out of the Vision, and Braun basically assuming the leadership of the Vision. Now, just to talk about this real quick, Braun earlier in the year, he lost to CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship in a really good match, and I thought Braun looked really good in that. I think he was on the rise. He did lose. He didn't win the Royal Rumble. So I don't know the direction for Braun then. Was it going to be him and Seth at Mania? We didn't get it. Braun got hurt, and then we were told he wasn't ready, but then he returned the next night. So instead they gave us, Seth and Gunther, which was a great match. But it was very quickly done and quickly thrown together. And they've made it all, sort of make sense, right? Now that, Gunther is challenging Cody, and that's the favor that Paul Heyman owed him. Okay. But so this is a match in which originally thought we would get at Mania. And I bring up Braun Breaker because I've been hard on him. I've been down on him of saying, he's got to improve on the mic. He's got to improve altogether. Now, he still looks like, he's unbelievably physically gifted, athletically gifted. But again, you need everything with it. The crowd seems to be with him. He's not the top of my list for those future stars, but he's impressed me. He impressed me against Punk. He impressed me, in this match as well. So, we get the match now. We get it at Backlash, which helps this PLE, right? So they get it going, and Seth coming out, looking like he really had a combination of Architect Seth and Shield Seth combo. And again, this new face gimmick for him. He's not that goofy. He doesn't have the goofy laugh. He doesn't dress as... he's dressing kind of similar to what he did, even when he comes out and talks, but he's very serious. He's still I don't know. It's a good version of Seth Rollins, right? And obviously he's one of the best performers, best wrestlers. Crowd loves him. And of course, during the match, they sing his song and during his entrance and all that, but during the match, they just, are singing his song, and not just because they like to sing. The crowd was hot, though. A couple things in this, in the match, and I know they don't like to hear botches, but there were a few botches. Unfortunate, right? Braun lately, on the Frankensteiners, he doesn't get them clean every time. So that was him. Seth on a counter, and then even on the Frankensteiner, not landing on his feet, which was a cool spot. But he didn't land it clean. But, that was the time where Braun had done like 3 Frankensteiners in a row, which there was a lot of Frankensteiners in this match. I hold my breath every time he does one because I just, I'm like, oh my God, he's going to break his neck. I hold my breath on a lot of moves, especially on the top rope with the flips. And it goes to show you again, just not these guys, but just everybody in WWE and wrestling in general doing these moves. People can bash wrestling all they want. These are incredible athletes, incredible performers who I don't know how they do it. It is amazing, but I do hold my breath, especially on these Frankensteiners. And I don't want him to break his neck. But again, cool spot. Seth kind of lands on his feet. As the match goes on, we do eventually get the Paul Heyman, the Vision. They come in, they interfere, Theory and Paul, and it doesn't cost Seth, but maybe or maybe not did he have the match, right? And he has to kind of deal with them. Some good counters by both guys. A spear countered into a pedigree by Seth, and then a super curb stomp off the ropes, into a spear from Braun. And the match was great. I don't think it was, so you always look at Backlash and say, how was it compared to Mania? And, right off the gate, again, this match, as I said, should have been on Mania. I would have still done it, but hey, it makes better for Backlash. But the match was great. You get all that you get. And ultimately, you get the super spear from Braun. He gets the win. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because, again, he's not been winning since he took over the Vision, as we say it, right? He lost the big match to Punk, even looking strong, though, and looking good. No shame in losing to the champ. Doesn't win the Royal Rumble. Then he's out. Now he's got this going with Seth. They kind of milked the Seth is injured and hasn't been back lately. So, hasn't been back that long. You had Gunther. He's been getting beat up by Braun on Raw. So they kind of sell that to say, okay, well, here's maybe a reason, but also Braun Breaker is the real deal. So Seth putting Braun over is big. It's a big win for Braun. It makes him a legitimate heel, makes him a threat to anyone now because you just beat Seth freaking Rollins. I will say, though, like the singlet, I'm not, it's kind of bland, and I'm not just getting into like I say, everything matters in wrestling. Your gear, your entrance, your promos. It's not just about your wrestling ability. The fans are going to gravitate to you based on everything. So with that being said, again, lose the singlet, look more like your Uncle Scott Steiner, and, just do the shorts. Just do the shorts and keep being the badass and all that stuff, but again, I think just maybe lose the singlet. I don't know. Or do a better job at your designs. That's all I can say. But hey, either way, again, makes him look big, makes him look strong. Props to Seth, the veteran, putting over the young talent who is definitely a part of the future of the WWE. So we go on to the next match, and we get Sami Zayn and Trick Williams for the United States Championship. So this is a rematch from Mania, and I have to point out Trick Williams with Lil Yachty. So we get a rematch where Trick had beat Sami at Mania. I'm loving the heel Sami. It's not that he's, it's that he's not a heel and he's trying to say, hey, I didn't do anything and people just stopped liking me because I was a good guy and a nice guy and who I was. And that's true. You got boring, you got bland, and that's what happens. Fans are not going to want that. You get tired of pulling for the underdog when you're always the underdog and you don't win. and before I get in the match, again, I'm just loving the heel Sammy, the way he acts, the way he does things, everything about it. And I could see him. This is not me predicting the future, but when you talk about who could do what, who could win this, could he just straight up win a match as a heel? Sure. There's always the dirty thing, doing the dirty work, doing the cheating, doing something to get over, as he's done, right? As he won the U.S. title against Carmelo Hayes being that way. But I could also see him winning the Money in the Bank and being that guy to cash in on the big baby face. And then that's just more heat on Sammy, more heelish behavior. Just throwing it out there, there's like about eight guys really who could probably win the Money in the Bank this year. But I definitely, can Sammy, make it last to then and then, win it, cash it in? Is that how he ultimately finally becomes a world champion? Anyway, so the match. Lil Yachty, again, he comes out with Trick Williams. And, I heard this actually on, Jim Cornette's podcast. And they were talking about how, he's really great as a manager. Him and Trick go together. And again, I agree. He is great as a manager. Then him as the gingerbread man and in the casket on SmackDown was classic. The whole funeral feat, that goofiness, but still, that was like old school SmackDown. But him rising up like Undertaker and he's the gingerbread, he attacks Sammy. It's pretty funny. So love it. Then we got, they're always the whoop that trick chants. Lash Legend even gets it on SmackDown, whoop that trick, as she is, with Trick Williams. Then we get the whoop that trick chant in sync with the stomps by Trick. So that's pretty cool. Sammy and Yachty, they both use the candy cane, kendo stick, either in on Trick or against each other. They're or against each other actually. So I didn't mention that, Lil Yachty coming out with the kendo stick, the candy cane that he used on Sammy on SmackDown as the gingerbread man. So Sammy takes out Yachty with a punch in this match and then the candy cane. So he attacks him. So I'm thinking, oh, Yachty's out, right? He just took him out. Nope, he gets back up. Not too long. And then he's just kind of standing there. So Sammy hits him with the haluva kick in the back of the head outside the ring. So I'm like, oh, he's done. Like, Yachty's not a wrestler. He's not. I mean, you look at referees getting taken out. You look at Yachty is not a wrestler. He's a celebrity, but he's a manager now. He's a mouthpiece, helping with Trick, whatever you want to call it. He gets taken out with Sammy's finisher, the haluva, to the back of the head. Okay, just want to point that out. So Sammy dealing with, he was more worried about Yachty, dealing with Yachty, all that, gets back in the ring. Ultimately, Trick counters the haluva, hits him with the trick shot, gets the win. And then we get Yachty is now in the ring, making it rain with Trick after the match. Like, I mean, when I say the events, like I said, the events happened so quickly. It was take out Yachty, get back in the ring, miss, and then trick shot win. And then Yachty's in the ring with Trick Williams, making it rain with dollar bills, big stack of money. And I'm like, didn't he just take Sami Zayn's finisher? Didn't he just get knocked out with the haluva kick? No, he's back up that quick. That makes no sense. He should have still been out. He's not a wrestler. I mean, it should have been like Trick going to help him up or something. And after he had celebrated the ring a little bit, go find Yachty and be like, hey, get him in the ring. Then like whatever. But to get up that quick, I mean, not only did he took a punch, then he took a little bit of beating with the kendo stick. No, he took punches and the kendo stick, then the haluva kick, and then he's just up that quick. Makes no sense. But Trick is super over. Sammy's still strong, though, as a heel. Takes the loss. That's just wrestling. I liked it. I'm all good with it. All right. What do we get next? We are on to one of the, I guess, the highlights, but then I don't know how you feel about all this, but we get Miz and Kit Wilson against Danhausen and his mystery partner. So this has been topic, right? Who's going to be his partner? Now again, on it's been cheesy. You even had him working on the cloning machine on SmackDown. A lot of the stuff is goofy and cheesy, and I get it. It's comedic. I like some of the stuff, but I don't know that everyone's a fan. But there's a lot of people fan of this. And I think, again, Backlash a pretty good spot. Even though they had a spot on Mania, they're getting another spot. Now we're getting an actual match. Kit and Miz, they come out. They got the old school, awesome. Miz has, they have the awesome shirt saying hello. It would normally say hello, I'm awesome. Kit with the hello, I'm not toxic. Miz, hello, I'm not cursed. And I do like the mentorship here of Miz to Kit. Obviously a veteran former champion Miz. He's done it all, and he does really well tagging with people. And now Kit Wilson is that, the new guy, right? The young up and comer, and he's getting to be with the Miz, and they do the heel stuff, but also they're entertaining. And this is that sports entertainment part with the Danhausen and the Miz and Kit. But again, kind of goofy. Danhausen comes out. He's in his, what is it? The Danhausen mobile, whatever you want to call it. And then we get another box. And the box is the cloning machine. And it opens. And we get a little Danhausen, a mini Hausen, as they called him, but a masked one, like a luchador. That's his mystery partner. We come to find out it was El Torito, the formerly El Torito, but he. So that is what the mystery partner is. So we go back to the little people gimmick that we got at Mania. So now we're getting an actual wrestler, and so that's his partner. And again, some of this I'm not a fan of. I think there was a big build up. Just kind of like his debut for Danhausen. I don't know that I like WWE building this stuff up, and then you're just you're letting the fans down a little because it's like, I was thinking actually the opposite, by the way. I never put this, on the podcast, but I was actually thinking the opposite. I was like, well, it would be funny if Omos was the partner, and you got this huge, Danhausen clone, because I knew they were going to do something with a clone, right? Omos would have been really, I think, just as funny, just as good. Probably couldn't have had a long match because he would have just dominated. And all the stuff with Danhausen, like I said, cheesy. Is he popular? Is he not popular? Well, at WrestleMania there was a release of some data, and at Mania week or weekend at Mania, all that, there were the three top merchandise sales went to, in this order: number 1, CM Punk; 2, Cody Rhodes. So those are your champions. They were at the time. So your two of your biggest baby faces. And number 3 was Danhausen. He's huge with kids. Again. So I get it. When you're big with kids, you're going to get the mask, you're going to get the shirts, you're going to get the everything that comes with Danhausen. But now that's more than kids, by the way. That's adults getting Danhausen stuff. When you're third at WrestleMania in sales. I do wish they would have planned for Mania like they do for Danhausen. I feel like they're putting a lot of planning into Danhausen. He's getting a lot of time. Again, entertaining, funny, comedic, all that stuff. Look, he's got me hooked too. I'm with it. It's just I'm not I go back and forth on my feelings about it, like what I'm expecting and then what I get. And then it's like, it's a little, sometimes it's a little too, what is it, magic based and beyond, actual reality for me. The curse and things going off and I don't know, some of it. But I will say with this, with like the gingerbread funeral on SmackDown, using little people, it feels a lot like the 2000s. No lie. Like it's a lot of 2000s vibe, WWE, SmackDown, Raw, all of it is just, it gives me that vibe. So, the match. He is called Danhausen. They kind of settled on that one. I mentioned, Miz. It's just, you look at how he, again, with Kit Wilson, he always finds a partner. This is his career, even though a two-time, WWE champion and Intercontinental in the United States, the tag team has kind of been his bread and butter, right? I mean, he went with, he's been with Big Show, Alex Riley, Logan Paul, Damian Sandow. We all remember Mizdow and Big Show, Show Miz. Awesome Truth with R-Truth, Shane McMahon, John Morrison. Then he had Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel in his Miztourage. And then recently he had Carmelo Hayes. He's tried to be a mentor or, again, having a partner, and now he has Kit Wilson. So, again, back to the match. Danhausen, he obviously performs. He is a wrestler. You get all the stuff you get in the match. Ultimately, Kit Wilson throws him back in the box, in the cloning machine, and I'm using air quotes because it feels like a episode of Family Matters of Urkel turning into Stefan Urkel, or anybody getting into his machine and changing. So we're getting this now in the WWE. Yeah, we got to be careful with this. Just like, I'm making a 90s reference for people. Family Matters, yeah. It got goofy. It got too silly. We don't want it to do this. But again, throws him in the cloning machine. More magic, more cartoon stuff, because now more Danhausens come out. All the little minis Hausens from, I don't know if they're the same ones from Mania, but they come out and they attack everybody, Miz and Kit and all that stuff. One cool spot, Danhausen, he picks up Kit Wilson and does Wade Barrett's move, Wasteland. Great spot. And then as they are continuing in the ring, all the other little Danhausens are standing on the announcer's desk all around the ring there. It's kind of funny. And then I start thinking about this, that if they're going with Danhausen and Danhausen and all this goofiness, now I'm getting 90s vibes. Now I'm getting Doink and Dink the Clown vibes, right? They just got to it quicker. Yeah, right. Doink the Clown. If you don't remember, evil, scary heel clown. He ultimately turned face, but he had Dink, the clown, to help him out, which was a mini Doink. So we're getting that now with Danhausen, by the way. Just so you know, I'm getting that vibe now. I went from 2000s to the 90s, all mixed in. Is there any attitude era right now? Maybe, but we're in a new era, but we've gone back here lately, so it is what it is. The crowd, again, into the match. Again, hot all night. Danhausen wins. Miz ultimately sprays himself with the fire extinguisher along with Kit Wilson. So they get the win. They get him in there, get the win. It's comic relief. And again, I'm not sure about all of it once again. And apparently Miz does anything they ask of him. I feel like sometimes, though, as a two-time WWE champion, maybe let's stop embarrassing the Miz and give him a little more respect. He is a classic heel, though, and at this point, I don't know that he'll ever be champion again. All right, next match, we go to Io Sky and Asuka. Again, another match that I thought could have been on Mania. right? Could have been on Mania. Felt a little empty without Kairi Sane. I'll get into why she wasn't. Obviously, if you don't know, she was released. So she's not here for this and had been a big part of this storyline and this feud, right? Asuka mistreating, Kairi, and then dealing with Io and Rhea. And now we just get Asuka and Io. Okay, so this is what we got. And Kairi, again, she, forgotten in this feud for this match. Again, you just don't even mention her. And she's getting done like, Tonga Loa and JC Mateo are with the MFTs. Now we just know that it's Solo and Talatanga. That's all we know now, MFTs. So, and, or Tamatanga too. He's still a part of it. But forgotten, if you get out, you're no longer mentioned. So the We Want Kairi chants breakout during this match. Great match as expected. Like I said, should have been on Mania. Would have tore the house down. Again, though, this crowd loved everything. They were in it here at Tampa for Backlash. Big spot in this match. A lot of counters, a lot of all the stuff you get in a great match. I'm not going to go through every move. I'm not going to do this in any of these. But the big spot I liked was Io blocking the mist spray out of Asuka's mouth at the announce table with Wade Barrett's notepad. So Wade Barrett really involved. Gets his move done by Minihausen. Now his notepad's used. A really great spot. Crowd into it, chanting, "This is awesome." And we get Io gets the win over the moonsault. Gets her revenge on Asuka. A big win, I think, for her being back in the singles competition without Rhea Ripley. Io's great. And just going to push her towards that title, maybe. We get that Rhea Io somewhere. And the big thing, of course, about this match, was that Io and Asuka, very emotional. They hug as Asuka shows her respect for this classic banger of a match. And there's two things that we got to look at. And is Asuka now going to be babyface? Because, again, they hug, they cheer, all these things. And, that Kairi is gone. Is she going to babyface now? Because that's no longer a thing. But it also looked like there's speculation that Asuka could be retiring. Word is that could be semi-retired. Maybe she got cut pay. Maybe the backstage don't know anything about it. So we're all confused on what's next for Asuka. So only time will tell on that one. But again, great match, and we'll see what happens with Asuka. She's been a great wrestler, and if this is it, man, it is a loss to the division, but we shall see. See what happens with Asuka. Good for Io. All right, next we get the John Cena announcement that's going to, change the foundation of the business, right? Shock the foundation of the WWE. John Cena, again, thought he was retired. He keeps showing up. Apparently, he's just going to stay involved. Why couldn't you have just kept wrestling? I don't understand. Oh, man. Anyways. So, he's in a suit again. As I always say, it doesn't hit the same John Cena in a suit. But this is who he is now. He is corporate Cena. That's what I call him. He talks about what's next for him in the WWE. So, of course, everyone starts chanting one more match. He talked about his last match and everything that happened in that and that night, which was the tournament, which Gunther won to face him. And he talked about them earning that match and the Young Stars showcase like Solruka, Javon Evans, and Obafemi that night. Crowd starts chanting for Obafemi. He's the man. They love him. So he announces John Cena Classic, which will be a tournament with Raw, SmackDown, NXT superstars, which will compete. Winner gets a new title. Brand new. No name given. No date given for this. When this classic will start, happen, all these things. Interesting point. He says that doesn't matter if you win or lose in these matches. The fans will determine the winner of the event and who goes on into the tournament and into ultimately winning the Classic. So it's based on performance. Crowd chants for Oba again. But it's very mixed reviews on this. Great idea. Definitely a way to get guys involved and could win something. Also saw a cool thing that said the title should be a spinner belt, which makes sense. But it's very confusing on you're going to let fans vote. So based on just who they like, I mean, it's wrestling, but it's American Idol. I don't know how I feel about it, and I know that winning and losing of matches is predetermined, and it's basically going to be a popularity contest. But again, a way to showcase. It really, I think you got to look at it and say it's going to be a way to showcase wrestlers maybe that you haven't seen, maybe that you haven't, maybe you don't know of or haven't watched a lot of, right? So it'll be your first time to get to see them perform. It is what it is. I don't know if it shocks the foundation, but hey, John Cena stays involved in the WWE, even being retired. All right, so we go to Roman and Jacob Fatu for the World Heavyweight Championship. I say this feud is making Fatu look more legit every day. They started this with the Cody stuff. Then he beat Drew at Mania. I said it helped him by beating Drew. I said he would beat Drew because he's going to benefit from that. I did not want him in a title match at Mania. So now this is why. This is like you get the build. He already showed the stuff with Cody. He showed the stuff with Drew, and now he's getting it with Roman, just pushing him higher and higher up that ladder to the top as a main eventer or in that main event picture. Comes out with a little tribute to Umaga. Wearing blue and black. First time I've ever seen that. First ever world title match for Fatu. And then Roman coming out, his normal chiseled self, gold and black, and got his title, but no Usos. Very important, I think, there. No Usos. Roman on his own. This is the Roman that we have now. We get that head of the table bloodline theme. It hits hard. Never like the change anyways. Crowd stays hot. They're chanting OTC and Fatu. Roman looked surprised early about how good Fatu was, how he bounced back so quickly from things. It was a theme of, again, this is making Fatu look strong. Then you get the tongue and death grip early. And it was kind of like a warning to Roman, like, hey, I can get this on you anytime. And I'm going to weaken you with this, and then I'll use it for, maybe the finisher. Whoever thought of this was genius to have him start using this move. It just adds to his arsenal. And if you're trying to make him a heel or just more edgy or more powerful or more scarier, whatever the case may be, genius idea to add this. And of course it goes into the family and all that. We get some Let's Go Jacob OTC chants. So fans, again, hot. And kind of in with both of these guys, right? I mentioned, Fatu bouncing back quickly from a lot of Roman's moves. Kind of like Lil Yachty. Lil Yachty and Jacob Fatu, they're on the same level. They can take finishers and bounce back so quickly. Oh, man. Let's see. Death grip we get, and then again, he comes back with that death grip, and then a power bomb through the table by Fatu. We get Fatu kicks out of a spear. Reigns kicks out of a mighty moonsault. This takes me to a conversation I have a lot with, not sure why we have finishers anymore, because the finisher is supposed to be a finisher, and if we just keep kicking out of finishers, then let's stop calling them finishers. Fatu is just, again, you watch this match and watch how he's been, and now he is just, like I said, wild and crazy. He's that in between right now. He's like, heel, is he heel, is he not? And this is what you're thinking the way he's approaching Roman, the way he's trying to take away from Roman, the way he's, all these things. So you kind of get a mix, right? At the moment you do. Kind of attitude error type, right? Death grip again. Again, he hit that death grip a lot, just like about those, maybe like the Frankensteiners from Braun Breaker. Roman hulks out of one. Fatu, another kick out. We get that death grip again. This time, though, Roman grabs the ref kind of as like a desperation save, like let me do anything I possibly can to not, lose this match here. And ultimately, he pulled off the turnbuckle, cover. And what does he do as the ref, he gets it, and then he's like back turned whatever. Roman throws, Fatu into the exposed turnbuckle, gets the spear, gets the win. Kind of like Cody. It was like Roman was in that Cody mode of, I'm a babyface now, but again, I got to do whatever I can to win, and I'm not gonna second guess. Like I'm gonna take an opportunity, and I'm wrestling Fatu, who will do anything to win as well, and he is a dangerous, dangerous opponent. So if I got to throw him into this exposed turnbuckle, that's what I'm going to do. And that's what he did. Fatu, though, after the match, he attacks Roman, attacks the ref, attacks the officials, and threw Adam Pearce out of the ring. I mean, he's wild. He's crazy. Keeps hitting that death grip on Roman. Thought he was leaving. Goes back, attacks more. I feel like maybe he was full heel now with this attack, or they're trying to make him. Because you can't keep going this way, right? We got to have, the crowd in front of Roman and with Roman, and somebody's got to be against him, and it's got to be maybe Fatu. That's the way I felt. Definitely a mixed reaction at the match. All the chanting they did, there was some boos in there now because he was just unhinged. He, Roman, though, like they said, he survived at all cost. He survived at all cost. The PLE, it goes off, Backlash goes off with Fatu holding the title standing tall, which was very reminiscent of Orton at Mania with Cody. We haven't seen Orton, though, since. So I don't know what's going to happen with Fatu. Do they suspend him? Do they do, something like that? But what we got also was an interview after from Roman leaving the ring after the show with Kathy Kelly saying, this is your last night in WWE, Jacob. You don't belong here. This is why we should have never let Jacob in this company. Like I said, you don't belong here, Jacob. There's no order with you. This is your last night here. Maybe we shall see. He's not gonna. Obviously, it's not his last night here. But now Roman, it's a thing of, is he scared? Or is he scared? Or is he just like, hey, let's get him out of here because this dude's unhinged and he is a real threat to me, and it makes him look like a real threat to Roman or anyone. And that was my takeaway from Backlash was, one, we got a lot of the future versus, and I don't want to say past because they're not past, but you do get that, the veterans, let's call them veterans, with the Asuka, Roman, Seth, Sammy, right? Even the Miz to a degree, right? Even the Miz to a degree, and you get that future with the Braun and the Trick, and even Io, even though she's established. But Jacob and Danhausen is just the new toy that they're playing with. But I think, and then of course Cena talking about the classic, which could involve the future stars that you get introduced to, like they did on his last, Saturday night's main event. Yeah. So even in loss, Fatu is ready. He's getting the bigger build each time. I put Fatu above, Oba and it's Jacob, and I think I got both of them above Braun, but Braun's right there. He's getting better. Jacob again. They're both, even though a fan of them. I think they're growing where they are really, 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 into their own. They're getting built the right way. So of all the things we'd criticize WWE for, this is actually one of the good things that they're doing, and that I've noticed. Yes. And big thing about Backlash as well, different than Mania, not a lot of commercials, every match over 10 minutes. So Backlash, overall success, heading to the future. These guys are going to stick around. We don't know if Asuka will, but we know we're missing Kairi Sane. And, of course, that leads me into who else got released. So we go back to the old, out with the old, in with the new, or just out with some, and who is going to be making their way into the WWE next. They did like a little switch out. So, coming up, going to get into the releases and the additions. All right, so recently, WWE, they do their normal, releases. It happens, right? Various reasons they do it, change in roster, salary cuts, nothing really working for the talent or the gimmick. It just kind of, they weigh on who they need, who they don't need. And we got a lot of reports about, TKO, cutting salaries and cutting payroll here. So it did happen. And again, it happens every year. So nothing new. But when they're trying to cut salaries too, again, they're making money. So I don't know. I'm not the guy, but I'm like, either way, this has been happening for years. And here are the releases. So I want to say this because they did release a lot, and then they added some people from, wrestlers and superstars from NXT. So like I said, it's kind of like, okay, you're not working, but let me now go to, let's see what does. Let's get this new, fresh, energy into the product. All right. And now I'm going to go into do I agree with some of these releases and do I not? Things like that and why. So the big one I've talked about earlier, Kairi Sane, again, she was involved in a storyline. So her getting released was huge, fan favorite. I think she was getting better and better. I think definitely missing from the Asuka and Io stuff, at Backlash, because we've been getting this for months, and then all of a sudden she's just released and we get no payoff. Aleister Black, Zelina Vega, Uncle Howdy, Rowan, Nikki Cross, Joe Gacy, Dexter Lumis, the Wyatt Six, they all get it. Santos Escobar, not really, that one I definitely get. Yeah, Motor City Machine Guns, Apollo Crews, Crews, great athlete, great wrestler, just never worked out. Zoe Stark, she's hurt. Alba Fire kind of surprised me because she's a part of the Secret Harvest for Chelsea Green. So now, what's going on? The big one, let's not get to the big ones. MFTs, I said Tangaloa and JC Mateo. And then the big one was the New Day, Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. So those were the long-standing veterans, and they get the axe. So, as I go into these and look at these, the New Day, those guys, apparently it was due to money and I think usage, because the heel turn worked for a moment. It was big, but then it fizzled. And WWE can't make up their mind anyways on tag team wrestling. They, you get rid of Motor City Machine Guns and the New Day and the Wyatts and even the MFTs. They're all tag team oriented. And to make room for, I guess, the Street Profits. We got Truth and, Priest, and it kind of thrown together tag teams for the most part, outside of the Usos and even the Vision, to me, are thrown together. So I don't know what they're doing, but either way, it was kind of big on the New Day. I think everybody, again, the New Day face gimmick had kind of gotten a little stale. And, without Big E, it's just not the same. And they tried to do the heel turn, and they did it the right way, right? They kind of turned on Big E. Some of their stuff was funny. Some of the stuff was good at first, and then it just wasn't the same. And there was probably some stuff they could have done differently, but they didn't. So, money and usage, they get and of course they were the biggest names outside of some other ones like Kairi Sane and, Aleister Black, I think was a big one. I think Uncle Howdy again, Bo Dallas, just because of the Wyatt connection. And I think everyone thought they had a bigger, vision for what they were going to do. And they did for a moment. But first, let's get to Zelina Vega already commenting on the way they did her, as they, she was a little salty, of course, as you would be if you get fired, and the way they fire you. And she claimed, she tried to do more with the U.S. title when she had it, which I can agree with her on that. Again, they've always dropped the ball outside of giving it to Chelsea. Now, of course, Tiffy's got it, and that's good for Tiffy. If she's not going to be in the world title picture, then, she can make it big. But I thought Chelsea Green was too. I just think they go all over the place with it. They did nothing with Julia, nothing with Zelina. I get it, right? She kept wrestling. Yeah, I get it. She kept wrestling the same people. And she said it out of her mouth. And as I mentioned in my episode about, Unreal, they were saying that about Chelsea. So I was like, yeah, like she noticed it. Then they're talking about Chelsea, so they give it to Julia, and they don't do anything with Julia. So, like, I don't think they can make up their mind on tag team wrestling, what they can do with the women's U.S. title. We shall see. I do know, Chelsea and Tiffy having their moments right now together, getting some screen time, and I don't know if that's gonna be a team or we get a feud. Yeah, again, but even with Chelsea, I think dropping the ball there. I mean, she had her secret Hervis. And, I know, Piper got hurt, but now they get rid of Alba Fire. So she's still going with the gimmick, which is cool. And, again, don't mess up with Chelsea Green. She, again, like I said, she's a star. She should be pushed a little more. And maybe she's going to get it here with Tiffy for the moment. But anyways, back to Zelina and Aleister. It's evident when they hired Aleister and put him with his wife Zelina, it was just to replace Karrion Kross and Scarlett. But this was kind of like I got on my notes. It's the Temu version, because they did almost the same thing. They were doing exactly what Karrion Kross and Scarlett was doing. So now, like, you didn't want to, keep Karrion and Scarlett, which the fans were behind. And his merch was selling, and they were chanting for him, and they were down with it. And you said, no. We're going to go get Aleister Black, and we're going to do the same thing with him and Zelina. And then it didn't work, or whatever the case may be. I know they didn't have the following and the backing of the fans like Kross and Scarlett did. So come to find out, now they're both gone. So now you have none of them. So come to find out, apparently rumored that Aleister was not happy because he was supposed to be used in the WrestleMania build-up for Cody and Randy. If you remember, he beat Randy, and he had been that one in the back, in the back, talking in people's ears like Sammy and Randy. And so he was supposed to be the one on the phone, and he was not happy about the switch to Pat McAfee. Because, again, now this would have put, again, I told you, it has connections to AEW with Aleister and Cody. So it made sense. And then, again, his character, he's a wrestler. It all made sense. It would have all made sense to keep Aleister, and it would put him in a bigger spotlight. But instead, they chose Pat McAfee. So there you go. TKO. Yeah, the Wyatts, the MFTs, they had this long feud, no real big payoff. They were battling over a lantern at the end of the day. Wyatts were not horrible, but creative wasn't enough after their debut. And there's a lot of problems because their debut was so big. Again, you're out of nowhere. You're bringing Bray Wyatt's vision to life with the whole Wyatt Six crew. and you're kind of continuing that on, and it was big, right? But that debut was just so over the top. I mean, going through Gorilla, looking like they're dead. Guys are just laid out, busted. Everything was just so violent. And then they were never that violent again. They were just normal wrestlers, even with their, and they got moved to SmackDown. And again, I look at Raw as being more edgier than SmackDown. So the move to SmackDown, I think creative, just you didn't follow up on that huge debut. And again, one of the greatest debuts ever, but you got to keep that going. You got to add that somewhere into their feuds, into their everything they do. And they just didn't. But really good promos from, Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas, and the back and forth of his, personalities. I could see him coming back. I could see them bringing them back. But MFTs, they grew too big. They were never really effective. Then they added the face paint. And then I started thinking, well, they look like, then they look like Danhausen, and Danhausen's super over. So you can't, it's like now they're like, why is their face painted? Which they still paint their face outside of Solo. But, I'd like to have seen Solo get a bigger push with these MFTs. And at one point he was. I thought he was really hot with his new, persona and his gimmick and U.S. title. And then once they took it off of him, he just never regained momentum. Then he was just kind of like a manager, and he was trying to get the tag titles. And then they were in this huge feud. And I know him and Howdy had a little, the singles part, but no payoff at Mania, no huge payoff really. It was just such a long feud. And again, I think they just got too big, so they cut the two weakest of the group that they really had nothing for them. But with those names that I just mentioned, here's who they kept. And again, I mentioned some big names they cut. And here's people they kept. They kept Tozawa. They kept Otis. Say what you want. Now, I know that they're pretty, they're popular, mid, whatever you want. And they get used a lot. I get it, right? One, I don't get them keeping over some of these guys or superstars. The LWO. Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde. They're so relevant. And me as a wrestling fan and watch wrestling, I still had to look up their names. Because I'm like, oh, they're still employed? Wow. Eric and Ivar, the War Raiders. They've had their moments. At least they don't dress like Vikings anymore, which was stupid. But again, they're okay. But they could be used in a different way. Bikers and Vikings just don't work anymore. So I don't know why they're still there as well. They get rid of the New Day, but not Grayson Waller. Omos, again, he's still employed. They just don't use him. I know he's been down in AAA some. Again, you just have a guy to have a guy. Which is kind of the idea of sometimes when you cut, you say, well, why do we have these guys? And Axiom and Nathan Frazier, not a fan. That's a tag team they kept. I don't know. Berto and Angel. Didn't know they were still something. Why? Again, these are tag teams. These are the tag teams they kept. But they got rid of, again, MFTs, the Wyatts, who were actually relevant. And again, it may come down with the money. The New Day. Even the Motor City Machine Guns. Again, make it make sense. I said BFAB and Meechin, and now I see they've got a little different look now. They'll have returned still with Jade Cargill, so that's why they kept those two. I wouldn't have neither one of them. And then you still have Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae, the couple. So you keep them, but you get rid of Zelina and Alistair. I just wanted to point out that I think all of these I would have released before most of the ones they actually released. But again, they had to make room for, and I get this part, they have to make room for the call-ups, for those NXT call-ups or returns. And what we've gotten so far is Ethan Page, which he went to Raw instead of SmackDown, which I don't know. Do they all work for the same company? Sometimes you wonder about NXT, Raw, SmackDown. Aren't they all the same company? Didn't they see how well Ethan Page and Chelsea worked in NXT? And Chelsea's on SmackDown, Ethan's on Raw, and right now he's with Rusev, which works. It's not horrible, but it's not the same as Chelsea, and you could have kept building her bigger and have Ethan Page still be a rising star. That one's a head scratcher. Would love to be in those meetings when they talk about this stuff. Sol Ruka going to Raw. The Street Profits return. They go to Raw. Joe Hendry gets called up. He's on Raw. Then we get Ricky Saints on SmackDown. We get Fatal Influence with JC Jane, Fallon Henley, Laney Reed, also on SmackDown. And we get Blake Monroe. So I love all the call-ups. That's in the return, even the Street Profits, right? Even though Montez Ford never got a singles run, and that's dumb, but yeah, so the call-ups are great. I mean, this is, and this don't even, these recent call-ups, this is not even about the call-ups that they did before that. And with the Oba Femi, Trick Williams, Lash Legend, the addition of Danhausen, Matt Cardona coming back, Brie Bella returning, Paige returning. So that's a lot of call-ups and returns. And eventually you're going to get, Naomi, right? When she comes back from pregnancy, and Bianca Belair. And again, Belair's probably going to hit the time about they start releasing again. So as I mentioned, the names they kept, there's a lot of space to still cut and bring back the ones that could still come back. But I did post this question was, who could get that call back after just being released, like in R-Truth? Could fans get really behind, Kairi Sane? Could they even say, okay, Black and Zelina didn't work. Let's get Cross and Scarlett back in here because fans actually like them? Maybe. And then also, so out of those releases, who would I think would get the call back? I mean, depends on, I think, if they want money. If it's a big money thing, they'll just go to AEW. If it's not, then, I could see, like I said, Uncle Howdy coming back. I could see a, Kairi Sane. And that's really about it. Kofi Kingston, it reminds me a lot of like a Dolph Ziggler. Maybe you go do something different on a different stage, you and Woods at AEW, TNA. There's options for these guys and ladies to go, somewhere else. But I would say, maybe Kyrie, but if she didn't come back at Backlash, I don't know if she's coming back. But Uncle Howdy, I could see that, Bo Dallas, good relationship. I'm with the company. They could definitely bring him back. And then, like I said, where do they go? They go to AEW, TNA. That's where they go if you get cut. So real quick, I'm not going to get into this. I saw a graphic, and the graphic had pick 2 to main event night 2 of WrestleMania 43. So I'm not going to go into a bunch of, I said WrestleMania 43 predictions for next year in Saudi Arabia. So I saw this graphic and I was like, oh, this is fun. And here's who you had to choose from. Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, Braun Breaker, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Trick Williams, Gunther, and Oba Femi. Now, this didn't even include, I'm going to add some more names to this. It's, what about LA Knight? What about Jacob Fatu? What about Drew McIntyre? Even Logan Paul. And what about the rumored The Rock? So night 2 of Mania 43 in Saudi Arabia. So, this is some more recent years we've had, of course, Cody Roman back to back. Then we had Cody Cena. This year we had Roman and Punk. I think the obvious choices are you combine something like that of matches we haven't seen, of the matches that we've kind of been rumored or teased to go towards. And I think those matches are Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, which, fun fact, Seth Rollins' his only main event in Mania has always included Roman Reigns. I think we got that tease on SmackDown, or was it Raw? Either way, we got that tease of Cody and Punk. So I think of current active wrestlers, when you talk about night 2, that's the big one. Whatever you want to think, it's the big one. Yeah, Roman and Seth, Cody, Punk. I think those are your favorites. As big as Obafemi is, I don't know that night 2 is it for him. But who knows? This year he could just, again, continue to skyrocket. But if we are talking about Saudi Arabia, I know The Rock and Roman, that's the match that we haven't gotten. So that could also be in the mix. But I guess those are my 3 choices. It's Roman and Seth, it's Cody, Punk, or it's Rock and Roman. And that's it. Don't care. Night 2, that's the way it's going to be. Like I said, Rock Roman, the one match we all wanted, but we just didn't want it when they wanted to give it to us, because we wanted Cody to finish his story. But the time has come and the stage is all set, really. And they could do that with this storyline right now with the new First Family bloodline, Phi-2 and Roman and family and tribal chief stuff. Yeah, it should all, we should all be, it could all lead to Rock Roman if they do it the right way. Again, Saudi Arabia, they got the money. They're going to want the big names, big matches. So that could happen. And we should start planning now, because we need a great Mania. We need a better planned Mania storylines. What we got this year, we got to do better next year. We got to do better. They got to do better. TKO, Triple H, whoever, make it way better. And, I think it's all in the right direction at the moment. And again, I'm not going to get into any more matches for the time being, or any more what ifs. It's we are post WrestleMania. I think Backlash did a good job. Let's see what the summer brings as we keep. I'll always, if I have a wrestling topic, I'm going to do it. I'm always going to recap, PLEs. Even the bigger ones, I may even do a preview and picks. But, as always, I'm going to talk wrestling. So that's it for today. That's it for this episode. Listen to the show on all podcast outlets, even YouTube. There's just no video. Follow on social media on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. You can keep up with when episodes are available, the topics. Stay connected to the show. Listen, share, like, follow, comment, download, all that stuff. Especially, though, listen and share. Remember, whatever device you listen to, just go and tap that app. And for this episode, I am out.